Good morning to all of you. Today we are going to start our study of economics for 12th class. As you know, economics is clearly divided into two parts or branches as microeconomics and macroeconomics. In 11th class, you have already studied microeconomics. You must know that it was Ragnar Frisch who had the credit of dividing economics into two separate branches around 1933-34. Those two branches that we study now as micro and macro. So far, one of the two branches are concerned, which is microeconomics. We have already studied in grade 11th. Now in grade 12th, we have to start the other branch, which is called macroeconomics. Macroeconomics, as we know, is defined as that branch of economics in which we study economic variables. We can also call it economic aggregates at the level of economy as a whole. It means that in this branch of economics, whatever aggregates or variables we will study at the level of economy, not at the level of individual unit as we did in micro in our last year. So far, the literal meaning of macro is concerned. The term macro in English is derived from the Greek word macros, spelling M-A-K-R-O-S. In some of the book, you will see that they write M-A-C-R-O-S. M-A-C-R-O-S. Now it doesn't matter. Both are same. What is the main thing is the meaning. The term macros literally means large. It means that in this branch of economics, we study variables at the aggregate level, which is in fact at the level of economy as a whole. So this is the meaning of macroeconomics. Second part of our study is that in this branch of economics, we study some aggregates. What we call it? Aggregates. You may call it related concept. The same thing at the level of 11th, we called it microeconomic variables. Here we call it macroeconomic aggregates. In this branch, we will study aggregates like aggregate demand, which in micro we studied demand because there it was the study at the level of individual economic units. Here we study the same concept at the level of economy as a whole, so it is called aggregate demand. Similarly, in this part of economics we study aggregate supply, then income determination and similar other aspects. These all are called macroeconomic variables. Now come to the second point. The second point of our study is that macroeconomics actually studies combined efforts of the two separate units. They are, one you can call them units who are the owner of factors of production, like land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. And the other who are the organizer, or I must say institutions, who combine all these things to get proper output in the economy. You may bring government into it. So our effort in this branch of economics is to have study of all these things for the purpose of national income generation, which you can also call it output generation, which is in fact, as you know, in economics we measure everything in terms of money. After that, what we need to study is how these variables are applied in income generation as a, although they are separate group, but they interact together to generate income. What I mean to tell you, that sectors who come together to generate income or output. Here I must tell you that income or output will be considered same in the study of economics. As we know that economics is having some kind of limitations, it does not measure, right, or rather I should say, it cannot measure all the units of output that is generated in the economy during a particular period of time, which we generally consider as it is assumption of economics. A particular accounting year, output generated in the economy cannot be measured. It is practically impossible. That is why output generated is expressed in terms of money, so I am calling it income. Now, sectors, as you know, activities or group of activities who are having some common criterion in them, they are together called sectors. About these things you have already studied in previous classes, like primary sector or secondary sector or tertiary sector. They include activities that are considered as a sector or as a group because they are having some common criterion in them. Here our study what we call sectors, it simply means separate economic units who are involved differently in income or output generation. Now, they are household. Now, household, as denoted by capital H, is that sector of economy which is the owner of factors of production, like I mentioned earlier, land, labor, etc. This household provides services to the other sector. It may be the firm, that we will know about it later on, maybe government, and in return they get income. The other unit is firm. Firm, as second sector of economy, simply means producers. This sector is involved in producing goods and services of our requirement by using the land, labor, capital, or entrepreneurship provided by household. And in return, firm pays them income, which is called factor income. Factor income. About this factor income, we will come in the next topic, where it will be more clear. So, firm are basically the producing sector. Third sector of an economy is government. Now, government is an important sector of economy because it is government that determines different policies. It is the government that provides facilities to household, firm, and others, according to which activities are performed or income or output is generated as a result of common effort of different sector. Dear students, I must tell you that government at some point of time, as I told you earlier, that household, who is the owner of factors of production, and in return they get factor income, this household can be considered a consumer because they are entirely depending upon market for different goods and services in order to fulfill their needs, and those goods and services are produced by firms or producers in the economy. So, government in a sense is both a consumer or a producer, because government consumes some of the output generated by other sectors, and government is involved in the activities of production also. We all know that some of the firms are owned by the government, and those firms are producing several goods of our requirement, which is provided to us as a reasonable cost in order to have welfare of people in the economy. So, in economics, government is a unique sector which is at times consumer or at times producer. Fourth sector is what we call rest of the world. rest of the world. We also call it external sector. We call it external sector because this sector is not related to the domestic territory of an economy. Domestic territory, you must know that it is the territory which is confined to a particular geographical boundary of an economy. Like if you say Indian economy, then Indian economy is confined to the geographical or political boundary of India. All the sectors that perform in this economy, they can be said domestic sectors. Under this domestic sector comes, as I explained earlier, household, firm, and the government. Now, outside this domestic sector, whatever sector is involved, and it is very important for us to know that at present it is a period of global economy, and in this global economy, each and every economy is interdependent in order to take up different activities, may it be consumption or production or others. So, rest of the world or external sector has its own importance. That is why in macroeconomics, when we have to study output generation or any kind of other aggregates related to income determination, we will study four sectors: household, firm, government, and external sector, which in short we call it ROW, R-O-W. This is the four sectors of economy that we will study in macroeconomics. Now, how these four sectors are related? In order to understand this, what we have to study is their role in an economy.